What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Powered by Primus. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a deck profile on the team you guys are seeing in front of you, which is a Nemesis Prime mill deck. Now, there was an original list of this a while back when Wave 1 first came out, which featured Demolisher and featured Barrage in that space, but I've been testing it around. I wasn't very successful with that list. I've been very successful with this list. I've really been enjoying this list, so I wanted to show you guys the deck. I've been theory crafting it for a really long time, and I've been wanting to build it. I've been fine-tuning it for the last couple of weeks, playing it a bunch, and it has really good results. Now, before we get into the video, I do want to talk about one thing real quick, is if there is something that you guys do see here on the table here in just a moment, or even some other character cards that you're still waiting to get, have no worries whatsoever. Head over to topdecktcg.com, check them out. They have everything from content, news, and singles that you guys can pick up. And if you use our promo code, which I'll show you guys on the screen here, Powered by Primus, you guys can receive 10% off your total order. Now, it is all one word. Make sure you guys do use it as one word. I, for one, know that trading card games can be very expensive, so anything that we can do for you guys to help you guys get those last few cards for your guys' collections or for your guys' decks, I am happy to get into that. Now, let's start off with Nemesis Prime, seeing as how he is definitely the highlight of the deck. He is the whole purpose of the deck. He is definitely going to be our star. Now, while he's in truck mode, and when you flip to this mode, you get to do 2 damage to one of your opponent's characters. Now, they do choose the character, so they essentially are going to be plasma bursting their own characters, but primarily we're going to be using him for his other side. And it says that when you have to reshuffle your scrap pile into your deck, you get to put the bottom card of your deck on underneath Nemesis Prime, and then he gets +3 attack for each card that is going to be underneath him. Now, for those of you who haven't played any other card game that have the mill term as a reference, or played this game or where people have talked about it, mill decks essentially are going to be where you're trying to either go through your deck really fast or have your opponent go through their deck really fast for specific reasons. Now, in this deck, for this reason, is going to be able to try to get multiple cards under Nemesis Prime, which I will guarantee in most games you'll be getting at least 2 underneath him, giving him +6 to his base, which is going to bring him to that massive 13 base damage. Now, the one thing that I do want to mention with him is that this ability is only procced while you're in robot mode. If you shuffle your deck while you're in your truck mode, you will not get this ability, as well as if you're in your truck mode, you do not get plus attack based on the number of cards that are underneath him. So you want to make sure that when you are going to have to reshuffle it, you are in this mode, and that when you are wanting to benefit from the attack, that you are going to be in this mode as well. Now, the next character I want to talk about is going to be flamewar. Now, flamewar is going to spend absolutely very little time in this mode. I will get into the sequences and the turns later on, but you're always going to want to have her in this mode. This is why she is definitely in the list, and that is for that tough 1 on this side. Now, for those of you that are new to the trading card game, Tough 1 allows you to flip 1 additional card when it comes to defending for each of your characters. So if someone attacks Jazz, you're going to be able to flip 1 more on defense, which is going to be amazing. Same thing for Nemesis Prime and Flamewar themselves. It's just going to allow us to be able to keep our characters to live longer and proc Jazz's ability, which we'll get to here in just a second. This deck is a heavy blue list, so that Tough 1 is really, really nice. Now, the next character I want to talk about is going to be Jazz. Now, Jazz is going to remain in his alt mode or in his car mode, however you want to say it, which his car mode is very relevant. We'll get to that later on. But while he's in his ability, it says that when this defends against an enemy that does not have Pierce, and you flip 2 white battle icons, this can't take more than 2 damage from that attack. Now, one thing I just definitely want to mention with this character is, again, does that character that is attacking him cannot have Pierce. Even if that character happens to have Pierce 1, then Jazz's ability will not trigger, and you're going to have to rely on those blue battle icons to help him take less damage, and we're going to be able to definitely make sure that he does that. Jazz does take so much damage, which is really, really nice. His ability procs almost every single time in this list, which is really cool. So he's going to have to take at least 2 damage when it comes to attacking against characters that don't have Pierce, and let's say your opponent doesn't have any Pierce in their list. It will take 5 attacks from your opponent to actually be able to take down Jazz, which is going to remove a lot of damage away from these characters, which is really nice, seeing as how we want these to take the most amount of damage until Nemesis Prime is ready to attack for a massive, massive amount of damage. And the last thing that I do want to note is that you can flip Jazz. It is very rare, but I have done it at a few moments, when it says that when this character attacks and you flip 2 white battle icons, then he gets Pierce 2 till end of turn. Now, the Pierce 2 can be very nice, especially with a few of the other cards on the list that we'll be going over. You can get Jazz as some pretty crazy Pierce numbers, so if you're really trying to finish off that opponent and you're okay, let's say he's at 8 damage already, the last 2 won't matter. Even if he's at 7 damage and you're ready to KO a character on your opponent's side, you can definitely flip him and go for the offensive at the end of it, which can be really nice again to finish off those characters, seeing as how he would die in the other mode from attacks as well. So it'll definitely be nice to take a few characters out in that ability. Now the first thing that we're going to be getting into with this list, seeing as how there are a lot of them, is going to be the upgrades. Now the first upgrade we're going to be talking about is body armor, and we're going to be having 2 of them in the deck. Now body armor is an orange battle icon, which isn't great for us flipping, but we have it in the deck because of its ability. Body armor says to put on a melee character only, and it does allow tough 3. Cool part about this is that Nemesis Prime and Jazz are going to both be melee characters. They're both going to be your primary targets. Obviously you can't go after Flamewar because she's a specialist, but they're going to be your 2 main targets by giving them tough 3. However, if you do have a body armor, your first target is always going to be to put this onto Jazz, seeing as how his ability we really want to get to proc. Putting this on him is going to be really nice because now you're flipping 5 cards on defense, 2 from his base, and then 3 from the tough 1, or from the tough 3, apologies. And then if you happen to have Flamewar out, who's giving all of your characters tough 1 as well, then now you're talking about 2 for the defense, 3 for the tough 3, which is 5, 6 from Flamewar, and then if you happen to flip into a white, you're going to be flipping 8 cards on defense for Jazz. He's going to be able to definitely be able to tank a lot of damage, and then that's going to be helping you flip through your deck even faster to help you get Nemesis Prime where you want to be. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Reinforced Plating. Now Reinforced Plating is going to do almost the exact same thing. It is a blue battle icon and is going to give us that tough 2. Now there is a lot of armor hate that seems to be going around right now for good reasons, because it definitely does do really good things. Now the whole point of this again is going to be able to put onto Jazz or any of the other 2 characters if a body armor is not present, or if you already have a body armor on your other characters, then this is going to be great to put onto Flamewar. Next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Databank. Now Databank is awesome. It is a white battle icon, helping us flip through more cards on our defense, and then also helping trigger Jazz. But it says at the start of the turn you get to draw 1 additional card, which is going to let us help draw 2 cards in the turn versus 1. And then if you have multiple of these out, let's say we have 2 or 3 of them out, then you're going to be drawing 1 additional card. Let's say you're drawing up to 2, 3, or 4 at the start of the turn. This thing's going to help you go through your deck that much faster. Again, all of this is going to be for Nemesis Prime's ability. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Handheld Blaster. Now Handheld Blaster is primarily in the deck because of the double blue battle icon, helping us take less damage, so it's going to be really nice, but it also does have Bold 1. It's not great to play this card, but if you don't have any upgrades for the turn, and you don't have a way to get it really out of your hand, putting this on a character such as Nemesis Prime is never a bad thing. There are some oranges in the list, plus it helps you flip 1 more card to help us dig through that deck again, helping us mill. The next card coming in as a 2 of is going to be Datapad. Now Datapad is super awesome. It is a white battle icon again, letting us flip more on defense, helping us proc Jazz, but also says that when the upgraded character attacks, you get to draw a card. And then it says you can choose to put 1 on top of your deck. Now you could choose to put a white on top of your deck, helping you flip more when it comes to attacking, again milling even more, or you can just possibly keep that card, taking 1 more card out of your deck. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Equipment Enthusiast. Now Equipment Enthusiast is a white battle icon, obviously good for the previous reasons, but also says you get to draw a card for each of your upgrades. Now I will tell you that we will have a crazy amount of upgrades out on the battlefield pretty much at all times, and even if you happen to play this with 2 upgrades, you're still digging 2 more into your deck, which is really nice. But again, if you happen to have 3, 4, 5 upgrades, then this 1 card is going to be able to let you draw 5 cards, helping you piece together more cards that you're going to need, or help you just get through that deck again for Nemesis Prime. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Energon Axe. Now Energon Axe is a blue battle icon, it's fantastic. It gives +3 attack and then Pierce 2, which is super awesome. You can only put this on damaged characters, which will be pretty easy, especially when Jazz is only taking 2, or Flamewar, they're taking very little damage because of all the blue battle icon cards. But this is going to help allow Flamewar and Jazz to be able to get early damage, or even mid-range damage middle of the game. The +3 attack is going to be really nice, because that's going to put both of those characters at that 6 damage mark, and then the Pierce is going to allow them to at least do that damage. Now I did talk previously about Jazz while he's in his bot mode attacking, which he can get Pierce 2, and with the Pierce 2 off of that means that he'd have Pierce 4 getting in, again letting us help KO any characters if they are getting really close to that low health, or be able just to get in early damage. The other part about Energon Axe that is really awesome is putting it on a Nemesis Prime late game when you're going for those big hits. If we use the previous example, we have 2 cards underneath Nemesis Prime. He's sitting at that base 13 damage. You put this Energon Axe on him, and then now he's at 16 damage, which is enough to KO a lot of characters in Wave 1. Next card coming in as a 2-of is going to be Force Field. Now, Force Field is a white battle icon. It says if the upgraded character would take more than 5 damage, they instead take 4 and you break the Force Field. Now, the benefit with this card is that it is in here so it can help out Nemesis Prime take less damage. Same thing for flamewar, take less. But it's really also to be able to be in here in case you don't have the reinforced plating or body armor early game, which is what your definite goal is. This is a really nice card to have to help keep your characters alive just in case. The next card that we have coming in as a 1-of is going to be Drill Arms. Now, Drill Arms is a blue battle icon card. It does give +1 attack, which is nice, but it says that you get to destroy an enemy armor, and if you can't, you get to draw 1. This is really nice to play, especially when your Nemesis Prime is about to go for a big hit. It's really daunting to look across the table when you're about to swing for 16, and you see the opposing character with a force field on it. Believe me, it sucks. This is going to help keep that situation under wraps, allow you to blow up that card, and if not, you can still use this card and draw 1 to help us go through our deck again faster. And finally, as our last 1-of, we're going to have Debilitating Crystal, white battle icon card. It says when the upgraded character attacks, you're able to return an enemy upgrade that is defending to their hand. Again, that same situation we just talked about. Nemesis Prime is about to go in for big damage, or even Jazz is about to go in and finish off a character with Pierce. This card is going to allow you to be able to return those upgrades to your opponent's hand. And the final benefit to Debilitating Crystal is that it also helps stall your opponent's board. Let's say you happen to play Debilitating Crystal, you make your opponent return an upgrade to their hand. If it's really a valuable upgrade, something that they value as board control, they're going to have to keep replaying the card consistently, allowing them to stall and not be able to play more upgrades within a single turn because they keep playing the same upgrade in that situation. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the actions, and the first action coming in as a 2-of is going to be Ramming Speed. Now, Ramming Speed is an orange battle icon, so it's not really going to help us out on that defensive side of things. When we're attacking, it might be nice, but it's primarily in there because we get to scrap an enemy upgrade. We were talking about it with the previous card, Debilitating Crystal and Drill Arms. This is also going to have that same ability, where we're just going to be scrapping any really annoying upgrades on our opponent's side of the table, whether it's an armor that's getting in our way, or whether it's a weapon, let's say something like an Ion Blaster of Optimus Prime or Flamethrower. This is going to be able to clear those cards out of your way. The next card coming in at the 3-of, and which is pretty relevant in the deck, is going to be Team Up Tactics. Now, Team Up Tactics is really nice. If you do have Nemesis Prime while in truck mode, you can heal Nemesis Prime for 2, which is really nice, especially late game if he's taking an early beating or whatever the situation is. Being able to heal him up is really good. But finally, we can be able to use it because off of Jazz, if we don't have any damage on Nemesis, we get to just draw 2 straight cards, which is always beneficial, helping us get through that deck faster, really trying to proc that Nemesis Prime. The next card coming in as a 3-of is going to be System Reboot, white battle icon for all the previous reasons, and it says each player scraps their hand and draws 4 cards. Now, we do have a lot of cards in our hand, so sometimes this can be somewhat not good to use on yourself because you're losing a lot of your tools, but if your opponent does specifically have something in their hand that's really going to wreck your day, let's say they flipped an Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend and got to pull back a, let's say, Plasma Burst that they're going to use on your Jazz, which that essentially takes one whole attack sequence away. You can use this to be able to help them get rid of that card. Now, possibly, yes, they can draw into a new one, but it also allows us to draw 4 more cards. So if you really need to get out of a pinch, or if there's a card specifically you're digging for, this is going to be really good. Plus, digging 4 more might be enough just for you to be able to shuffle your deck to, again, help Nemesis Prime get that +3. Next card is going to be a 3-of, is going to be Inspiring Leadership. Now, Inspiring Leadership is a blue battle icon card. It says draw 3 and then scrap 2. Again, this is going to help us dig for some of those key component cards that we are in fact looking for, but it also does help us draw 3 through the deck, helping us mill. The next card coming in a 3-of is going to be the Bigger They Are. Now, Bigger They Are is a blue battle icon card, helping us stay, again, alive longer, but it's also going to give a character +2 attack, and then if they have fewer stars than the defender when they're attacking, they get Pierce 4. Now, Jazz does have 6 stars, and flamewar does have 5 stars, meaning that most of the time this card is going to be proccing. Allowing us to get that Pierce 4 is actually really important because it puts a lot of damage on those characters to where Nemesis Prime is ready to go. He gets to finish off any character that is left out there. The other part I did talk about is getting tons of that pierce damage if you happen to be in this mode going for that attack. After you play the Bigger They Are and possibly even have that Energon Axe onto this character, you'll be getting Pierce 4 off of the Bigger They Are, you'll be getting Pierce 2 off of his attack, and Pierce 2 off of the Axe, bringing you to a total of Pierce 8, which is an absolutely insane number, and you'll be KOing tons of characters with Jazz. Super awesome little combo. And then finally, our last action coming as a 3 of as well is going to be Treasure Hunt. It is an orange battle icon, and then it does say that you get to scrap the top 4 cards of your deck and put all upgrades into your hand. Now, the really cool part about this is that most of our deck, as you guys can see here with the little actions we have tons of upgrades, so this card will most likely be played in drawing you 3 to 4 cards. The other benefit to it is that when we are drawing a bunch of those upgrades, we're going to make sure we're going to be playing a bunch of those upgrades, which is going to go back to that equipment enthusiast, allowing us to draw even more cards. We really go through our deck really fast in this list, and like I said, it is very common to get Nemesis Prime to get 2 cards underneath him. We've even had a few matches where he's gotten 3 or 4 underneath him in a single match, because once you have so many cards in your hand and so many cards on the battlefield, you have very few cards in your deck, and it is very easy to churn through. Now the next few things that I do want to talk about are going to be a couple of differences that you guys can do in the deck, some other suggestions for certain builds that you guys specifically would like, and then also talk about some tips and tricks with the deck as well. Now, Equipment Enthusiast is a good card for me. I've had tons of success with it. Same thing with System Reboot. However, if Equipment Enthusiast isn't really drawing you guys enough of those cards, or System Reboot is helping your opponent more often than it isn't, one thing that you can change with System Reboot to kind of get the same effect is to run Backup Plan. Backup Plan is a white battle icon as well. It says scrap your hand and draw 3, so it stops your opponent from doing it and just allows you to do it. The other thing that you guys can do with these cards specifically, if you are struggling with those cards or find that they're not that useful, Leap into Battle is always a good option as well. It is a blue battle icon again, which really helps us out. And then it does give a character +3 till end of turn. It helps Jazz get some more attack damage in there. It helps Flame War, or late game, it can really help Nemesis KO really big characters if you still have lots of damage to get out. The other suggestion that I would suggest, obviously, for the list is putting in 2 Piercing Blasters and 1 Debilitating Crystal. Now the benefit to the Piercing Blasters is it still keeps that white battle icon and allows Pierce 3. So now if you are putting that Energon Axe onto, let's say, Flame War, you can put this card onto Jazz, again flip Jazz into that robot mode, and then now you're swinging with Pierce 5. Now granted, you have to hope that you're flipping some of those orange battle icon cards, but it is definitely doable, and if not, you're at least getting in for the 3 Pierce while you're in this mode, which can be really, really nice. And then the last thing would be putting in another crystal just to help you out in that white department, and then also bouncing those equipments back to your opponent's hand if you are having a problem with a lot of equipments in your meta. So the other thing that I would say that you could do as an option for a substitute, now I wouldn't recommend it. Again, I've played this list a lot and I feel like these are definitely the best 2, but the option is you can do is put in that Scrapnel if you want. Now if you find that you are proccing Jazz a lot all by himself and that you don't need the tough one off of Flame War side, then you can sub her out for that Scrapnel. Now the benefit to Scrapnel is that while he is in this mode, he can't take more than 3 damage from a single attack. The cool part is it doesn't matter how many blues you do flip for him, although the more blues you flip, let's say you would take less than 3 damage from attack, which is really nice. He still gets access to all of those armors and all of those other upgrades, including that body armor, which I would then go up to a 3 of, if you do indeed fact try to decide to run him, and I would cut 1 reinforced plating because he is a melee character as well. But again, I have tried this a bunch, and I feel like the tough one is really nice, especially early game if you happen to not have an armor or an upgrade. If you don't proc Jazz and he takes a bunch of damage really early game, it definitely hinders the deck a lot because you sacrifice at least 2 turns really getting that Nemesis Prime built up just because you weren't getting him off. But again, if you are consistently getting him off or at a higher percentage to where you feel comfortable enough, I would then suggest getting rid of the Flame War and bringing in the Scrapnel. You still get all of those benefits of all of the other perks with the blues. He does have more damage, so it's going to help Scrapnel get in there, and then also gets to hold a lot of damage himself, making your opponent usually have to attack him 3 times in order to KO him. Now the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was essentially the sequence and the first couple of turns, seeing as how that they are very, very specific and are very important. Now my first turn, I have probably never ever done a different turn 1, but depending on what your matchup is specifically, I would always flip Flame War so tough 1 becomes active, and then I always attack with Jazz right off the bat. Now this is based on me going first because you can't play any upgrades or any actions or anything. This is what I would do. This is going to help flip 1 more additional card with Jazz, so that should help proc his ability to be able to trigger. If you are flipping 2 for your base, you do get a white battle icon card. Now you're flipping 4, and then off of the tough 1 you'll be flipping 5 off of Jazz right off the bat, helping him stay alive, hopefully proccing his ability, and then again getting Nemesis Prime ready to reshuffle your deck. Now if your opponent is going first, it's kind of a Sometimes they'll go after Jazz because they're trying to get early damage, hoping that you don't proc his ability. I would say that's probably a bad play because you usually do proc them and they're really essentially wasting it. So what your opponent should probably be doing is either going after flamewar or trying to put early damage on a Nemesis Prime. That's where that thing such as Team Up Tactics is going to really come into play later on. Even if they happen to hit him early, you're going to be able to heal it later on. Or they're just going to try to KO that Flame War before you get the chance to flip and get that tough one. Now, this is really kind of your best idea or your ideal situation is you want them to go for that Nemesis Prime. Again, you can heal that stuff later on. He already has a base of 2 armor. Even if you flip 2 blues or even a white off of that, he's going to take little damage. He does have that 16 health, so that's always going to be really what you're wanting your opponent to go for. However, if they do the damage to the Flame War, my turn 1 would still be the same. I would flip Flame War, I would then try to upgrade Jazz with an armor, and then I would attack with Jazz. The only time that I would change this scenario is I would still always flip Flame War, but if I'm going up against a card list that specifically has a Bumblebee Legendary Warrior, there's usually a turn 1 tell with that deck, which I always try to point out. And the turn 1 tell is that they'll usually attack with their Bumblebee Legendary Warrior in bot mode. If they do flip over into that bot mode and throw that character out, it usually would tell me that they probably have a way, such as a turbo booster to untap it, or have a start your engines to be able to untap it, and then they can attack an untapped character after flipping it. So even if you were to happen to throw that Jazz out there that turn 1, they can still go for your Flame War, let's say they're on their turn 2. So if I'm going up against that situation, if I did have an armor, I would play it onto Flame War first. Now what you're going to do, depending on what your armor situation looks like and your action situation looks like, again, you always want to be trying to go through your deck as fast as possible while also protecting your characters as best as possible. Your first upgrade, unless it's those earlier situations, you always want to upgrade Jazz with one of those armor cards to help him stay alive, taking a brunt of that damage. Now the next armor that you would possibly get would depend on the rest of the situations. Now if your Nemesis Prime has taken some early damage and you haven't yet seen any team-up tactics, I would be putting reinforced plating onto Nemesis Prime at this point because he is definitely going to be your star of the deck. He needs to survive the absolute longest, thing is how you have to go through your deck a few times, and he's really the only one that's going to be putting out big damage. Same thing would go if Flame War has taken some early damage and Nemesis Prime doesn't have any damage on him, then I'd be putting that reinforced plating on Flame War, helping her stay alive, because your turn 2 is going to be to always flip Nemesis Prime and then to throw Flame War in. Once you're at this point in the game, these characters will rarely ever be flipping. The way that this is usually worked, again, sometimes I flip Jazz to be able to get in that pierce damage, but it's very situational. Now it would come to my turn 3, and then I would throw Nemesis Prime out in this situation. You can obviously always flip back to this mode to make sure always doing this damage, but one thing I would caution you, because we run so many whites, you do have tough and you are running these armors, is that you have to make sure that your deck does have enough cards so that on the next turn, you can be back in this mode to reshuffle. If you are in this mode when it comes to reshuffling, you will miss that proc and it will really hurt and hinder this deck and will set you back quite a bit. So with that being said, even if you are cautious and you have, let's say, 7, 10, 15 cards left in the deck and you're really worried about possibly having to reshuffle and be in the wrong mode, flipping to getting that 2 damage is not worth it. I would stay in this mode, seeing as how you have the same amount of armor in both modes, and this ability is definitely super important and you have to be in this mode. The only other tip that I would like to tell you guys when it comes to this deck is always, always, always remember how many whites you have that are left in your deck. Now this is very key and is very important. In the list that I showed you guys, I do run 14 white cards or white battle icon cards that really help get him to trigger 90% of the time because of the armors and Flame War. The one thing that I would like to caution you with is that always remembering that is definitely, again, going to be very key, because if you happen to throw Jazz out there, you didn't count, and let's say you only have 3 cards left in your deck, you have she's been KO'd at this point, and you don't have an armor on Jazz for whatever reason, and you're only flipping 2 cards, there's no way you're going to be able to proc his ability, and you're also going to only be flipping 2 blues, and your Jazz is going to take a lot of damage, if not get KO'd late game. So if you always remember how many whites are in your deck, and how many are in your hand and in your scrap pile, then you'll always know if flipping into that ability is going to work, or if you should try to maybe flip into this side and try to get in some extra damage. However the case may be, always remember how many whites you have, so you always know if Jazz is going to be protected and how many cards you'll be able to flip through to again help Nemesis Prime get to that point where he's going to be doing tons and tons of damage. Again, I really enjoy this deck. I really enjoy this build. I've been playing with it a lot. I am going to be posting some gameplay tomorrow in a new kind of style way, but I'm going to be showing off gameplay with this against Dinobots and against cars. Now, I will say that this deck has an awesome matchup against pretty much everything except for Dinobots. And the reason why Dinobots are so scary against this list is because of the trample damage, the overkill damage from Grimlock. The one thing that makes it very tough is even if Jazz is in this mode, has 8 damage on him, only allows 2 left, or only has 1 left, this ability does say that he can't take more than 2 damage from this attack, which can be super beneficial in this mode. However, if you are in Flame War and you are low on health on either side, and that trample damage goes over, let's say they've already KO'd the Jazz and they're dealing damage to the Flame War, the damage will always carry over and it does a lot of damage. Same thing goes for even if you are in this mode, and let's say you have Flame War tapped down and they go for a really big hit with Grimlock. Even if you choose to carry over the damage to Jazz, his ability will no longer proc, and let's say 6 is carrying over, that's going to all go over to Jazz, and if that doesn't KO him by itself, it takes away 3 attack turns from Jazz, and it really hurts the deck. So if you are indeed fact going up against Dinobots, I highly suggest that you try everything in your power to take care of that Grimlock as soon as possible. There's the chance that they may still have the Ice Still function to bring him back and get that really big damage. That's kind of out of your control, but that's why I'm saying that that matchup specifically is really difficult, because it's really hard to plan around that specific play. But again, I love this deck. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, a like would be greatly appreciated. If you guys are new to the channel, subscribe for more, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.